Hey guys, what's up? It's just Connor here. I hope you're having an amazing day as per usual. Welcome to another client case study interview. I've got Kashi here with me, so welcome, Kashi.
Yo, what's going on?
It's good to have you here, bro. Today we've got a pretty special one, guys. Very common situation that I think I've gone through. Many of you watching this have gone through. You're probably sitting here thinking the same things that Kashi did, the same things that I did before I got in this industry. And a lot of them are true for a lot of people. But I think Kashi is another great example of someone who's able to overcome the limiting mindsets that they once had about this industry. And just in general, I want to talk about Kashi's story because he's been crushing it. Because as you probably would have seen in the Tyler's video, Kashi last month hit $7,000 in commissions at 18 years old, right?
Yeah, man. Just turned 18 this year in March.
Fucking insane. That's so
Crazy,
funny.
bro.
That's super cool. And like the reason why this is so special, guys, is as I talk about my YouTube videos, quite often, is I get more shiny object syndrome from like getting back into high ticket sales full time. The only reason that I've started the RSA specifically is to help people because I know that there's just so much shit out there, which I'm sure Kashi will attest to and I'll probably talk about sometimes like a bit today. But I want to talk about ground zero, where we started and what happened before all of this. So I want to start from the very beginning, man. And by the very beginning, I think probably starting talking about what were you studying at university? Because technically you're a university dropout now, which is pretty crazy. But what were you studying at uni? Like, what was your process going on? Like, what was happening in your life at that point? And then we'll get to the point where you found me.
Yeah, 100%. So when I was in like year 12, which is my final year of high school, I
Mm,
was thinking about always starting an online business, but I was always had that as a backup plan was my academic side of things. So I was doing really well academically. So I went to like, you could say like an elite degree in terms of like engineering and like the math side of things, like a professional degree. And I went
mm,
on to go and do uni, and I always wanted to do business in the back of my mind, but I always had like engineering as a backup plan. So I never really took that leap of faith to do business at all. So I went to 6 months in uni, and yeah, it wasn't what I was expected, man, to be honest. I thought that, I'll be learning real life experiences and I'll be managing projects. And I looked at when I was doing a couple of internships at these engineering places, the kind of lifestyle that I was going to be heading towards in the next 5 years. It just wasn't what I wanted, to be honest. I can see, if you're the type of person who wants to settle for something mundane, like a 9 to 5 consistent lifestyle, then I would say head to engineering. But I wanted to live something out. There was more to life, man. Like ultimately, I wanted that spontaneous lifestyle and more just getting what I put in, getting more out of it. Because with the 9 to 5, you're just stuck at an income. But yeah, I would have made what, like, I think 100 to $200,000 as an engineer, but that'll always be what I'll be earning,
mm.
even when I'm like 40 or like 50 years
Yeah,
old. That's really what threw me off.
100%. Yeah, I think that's a super interesting thing about like the career of sales just in general, like of like how much you can scale your income.
Yeah.
Considering it's a meritocracy, you get paid the results you bring to the table because like you've seen a direct proportion. You got in, you made a small amount, and then you made a big amount. And now this month you'll probably make even a bigger amount, right? And it just continues to scale and grow and grow. And yes, there's ups and downs with really anything, but I think really what Cash is getting at here is the reason why sales is so cool and it's such an interesting thing to do is you can scale your income, right? Which is very rare with most careers. And the reason why it's, for specifically sales is because you're adding more value to the business, right? You're making them more money and you get paid more money, right? So I'm super curious, man. From memory, I think you found me from the YouTube channel, like most people do nowadays. Walk me through your process of you wanted to do something different. Like, what did that look like? What are the things you looked at? What are the conversations you had?
So the actual time where I found your YouTube channel, kind of, I was at probably one of the lowest points in my life. I can't lie. I just pretty much left uni to the side. I wanted to take that leap of faith. I was always considering it, and I went to part time. So I
Mm,
put uni on the side a little bit, and I was going into like door to door sales and knocking on doors and trying to do that. And I actually
yeah.
quit that as well. Right. So it was literally the day after I quit because I was like, I don't want to work for a boss, man. I asked for like a break and he wouldn't give it to me. And I'm like, bro, I'm done with this. So I left that. And then I saw the
Mm,
channel and it just spoke to me, man, because it wasn't like all these edited content with all these captions and titles. It was just pure and honest. And the fact that you're from Australia as well. And I was like, yeah, man, let me just say, book in a call. I watched through your whole like YouTube channel and it just resonated with the kind of lifestyle that I was, especially your experiences as well, working in that 9 to 5 and kind of being a uni student, younger as well. And
Mm.
really just wanted to take that leap of faith to take that call. I wasn't expecting anything, to be honest. When I booked, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna see what it's about, or just get some more information.
Yeah, no, I've definitely been there. I talk about that
Yeah,
story where I booked in my call with my first mentor, as you would call it. And yeah, same thing. Didn't expect anything much of it. Ended up spending $7,500 at the end of 60 minutes and running around the house going like, what the fuck did I just do?
I know, right?
Which I've told the story many times. I think you mentioned, I mean, it might have been Rahul. But how did you feel after you jumped in? Were you pretty nervous?
It's crazy, man. So like right before I hopped on the call, I don't know if you remember, but he called me just to make sure the Zoom link all good. And bro,
Yeah.
even I said that, man, I don't think I'm gonna hop on. And, I don't feel like it's for me. And you really spoke to me at that point, man. You were like, bro, what's the worst that can happen? Come up with a game plan. I was like, you know what, you're right, man. I'm being like so passive by not even hopping on the call to even
Mm.
address the fact that I want to do this. So I was like, let's hop on, right? And of course I joined in. And after that, for like the very first day, I was a little bit nervous. I was like, oh, is this even gonna work? And then literally in the second day, I got my first role, man. So I was like, well, clearly it works.
Oh yeah, I remember that, dude.
Yeah.
That's fucking insane.
That was wild for me.
Like
I was like, I've never seen something work so fast in my life.
yeah, I mean, for context, guys, you know, it took me almost a year and a half to get to where cashier is alone in commissions. And how long have you been in the training program for, man? Maybe like 3 months.
Literally just 3 months, like yesterday,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's like 90 days, which is insanity. So he's shortcut that path so fast, but it took me almost, I think, 6 months or even longer to get my first role. Cashy got it in well, like a fucking day, right? And that was obviously due to be like connected through my network and my obviously connections that I do have. But even not even relying on that, having to understand like what offers to pick that are going to make you money is obviously a really critical skill that we often talk about. And as you very well know, seeing some offers here and there, and you have some experience with different offers now, I think it's really, really important to find the right offers to make you money. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that of your experience working on multiple offers in such a short time frame.
Yeah. So the very first offer I was on, I was like an appointment setter. And at that time I was like, this is huge. This is exactly what I want to do. And obviously it was a really good offer, right? In terms of my very first one. So when I went out
Mm,
there, I had to appointment set. It was a lot of dials, a little bit of cold leads here and there. It wasn't the perfect appointment setting offer, which I knew at that point. But
mm,
when I really transitioned to better offers, like the next offer I had was another appointment setting offer, but it was more of me getting put into a closing position as well. And so I really learned a lot. The most I've learned is during those appointment setting offers, which is what I like to say to anyone new, like joining, starting off with sales in general. Having an appointment setting role as a first one is not a loss. It's definitely a win because you can't be a good
mm,
closer without being a good appointment setter, which is something that I learned as well. And then now when I'm on a full-time closing role with like inbound leads and inbound appointments just booked into my calendar, obviously it feels a lot better. Right. But
mm.
ultimately, it's like what Connor said, it's about who you know, not what you know, right? Ultimately, because no matter how good you are at sales, if you're not on the right offer, you're not going to make the money that you want. So it really is just about who you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's always the quote I always like to talk about is there's no failure, only feedback. And working, if you work a couple shitty roles and they don't work out to be the best ones, they're always different little bits of data and information that you can use to look for better ones in the future. It's never just wasted time. You're always gathering data and getting collection of reference experiences so that you can ultimately find better offers and find better gigs to work on. So I think I really agree there. That's super cool, man. So hyper skeptical, didn't want to get on a call with me in the first place. Um, crushing it now, which is fantastic. And achieving what took me, almost a year and a half to achieve in the space of 3 months. Like a lot of the guys are in the training program at the moment. I guess for you, man, personally, like where do you feel? Because obviously it's very normal to be skeptical of the entire market because not just in high ticket sales, but every industry, I'd say a very large percentage of people are really just out there to just get another buck, make another sale, get another customer, but never really focus on the customer or really even help their clients to the capacity that I think that they should. Hence why I go to the RSA. So after working together for almost 3 months now, where do you feel like you've got the most value, and where do you feel like RSA is kind of being different from the most, do you think?
So when I joined any other courses, like courses in the past, it's just a bunch of information being thrown at you and kind of you're left to fend for yourself, right? And trying to figure it out on your own. But like as
Mm,
soon as I joined RSA, even till this day, right? As soon as I message Connor, he responds in like 3 minutes. I don't think I've ever had a time where I've messaged Connor and he hasn't responded back to me in like a couple of minutes. And I've been with him for 3 months, right? And from the very first day, when I messaged you, you responded back with a whole Loom video explaining everything that I need to do. And I was like, oh man, I've never had this type of one-on-one support ever in my life. And that's what it
mm,
came down to, because I know that I'll do well if I have a mentor, because you've already
mm,
walked the path that I want to walk. And that's
yeah.
really what kind of drew me to the RSA, is very
Mm,
similar to the path that I want to walk on. And I got that one-on-one support with you. And then the program specifically, now that I've had experience to all the other sales courses out there and all these sales gurus, and when I come
mm,
back to the RSA after learning all these sales in like the higher end of sales, and I come back to RSA, I'm like, this really does cover the basics of what you need to know, and like in a simple way. Because there's a lot of stuff
mm,
out there that's just like a lot of information that's not really applicable, but you've kind of picked like the best of everything and combined
mm,
all the knowledge of all the mentors in the sales space, like the big ones, and just combined it into an easy to follow way. That way it's not
mm.
confusing. Because I definitely experienced that when I went out on my own on these offers. There's a lot of confusing sales processes there
Yeah,
as well.
100%. I think the biggest problem that I see with most beginners starting out is they're very naive and they don't know what they don't know. And they'll buy another, I like to call them a guru because you could technically call me a guru, I guess. I mean, if you want to, I don't like to associate with it, but it is what it is. But more like these marketers, right? These marketers, they sell everybody the dream, which is okay if you can somewhat help the person and actually do the right things. But I'd say at least 95% of them just can't. But the problem is, I speak about this all the time inside with the community is I have multiple people come to me every single week talking to me about I work with this program, I work with this marketer, I'm not getting results, I don't know what to do, I've watched your content, and it seems like you have things a lot more figured out than they do. And I honestly wish that I met you weeks before or a month before I actually made that purchasing decision. And I hear that all too frequently. We have like people refunding other programs every single, I'm not going to name names, but like competitors programs all the time, um, full refunding, having to charge back other people's programs, just absolutely disgusting stuff. But the thing is, a lot of beginners as well don't even realize that the information that they're getting is very simple and basic, right? Because you don't know what you don't know, right? Yeah. I mean, have you kind of really seen that, like you mentioned before, like looking at different training programs? Like, have you looked what specifically other things have you looked at as far as like other sales trainings to compare to?
Yeah. So, when I was on these, you could say like mediocre offers in the sales space, and they gave you a lot of paid training from, all these mentors. And, I didn't pay for it specifically, but, the agency owners themselves paid like 7 grand a month for this training. And I'm like, holy, 7 grand a month of training. This must be really good. And I'm thinking, this is going to be better than Connors or better than the RSA. Like, this is all I need now. It's 7 grand. Like, associating like a price tag to information, I feel like it's not accurate at all. So when I looked
Mm,
through the sales process, it was just overwhelming. Like, it didn't, first of all, it didn't work. One thing.
yeah.
Second of all, it was just too much stuff out there that like normal people can't even understand when you're hopping on sales calls. And then after
Mm,
all that, looking at that for a couple of weeks and trying to implement those, I had no success. So I came back to the RSA, the fundamentals, went through the classroom, and I was like, holy, this is like all the good stuff, just condensed step by step on what I need to know, and all the fluff is out of the way. So you kind of
mm,
just navigated it for me. And that's when I really saw the value. Because initially, when I came in and I saw the classroom, I had no sales experience. So I didn't really know what
mm,
would work. So I thought, oh,
yeah.
yeah, it looks pretty good. And then when I saw
Mm,
the other things out there and I came back, then I really saw the value in RSA, really. Because I don't know what
yeah.
I don't know at the end of the day.
Yeah, and for the people watching this, you don't know what you don't know. And I think it's really, really important to understand that and really going with that mindset because, again, when I bought my first program, it was 7.5K. I thought it was the best thing in the world. It was probably the worst sales training ever. I've never used any of that sales in my life, in my sales career, like ever, not even once. If there was one valuable takeaway that I had from that training, which I've spoken about previous videos, is that I realized that everything in my life is because of me, and anything that I want is because of me. That's everything that I have is either manifested it or because I allowed it. And that self accountability changed my life. That was the one thing I learned. But I had to spend collectively $43,000 more on sales training to really crack the code and figure this stuff out. Hence why I built the RSA, because you're right. As I've seen the industry landscape and market at the moment, there's far too many people that have sold for 3 months, 6 months, a year, maybe, if that, maybe being a stretch, that are now teaching people how to get in this industry. And they're all teaching the same regurgitated information from one guy to the other guy. It's just all the same marketing information that's just recycled over and over and over again. One guy bought a course, just copy and pasting it everywhere. It's all that I see. And it's just very, very, very copy paste and simple.
I like
I'm
the
very curious on, yeah, go ahead.
I like the thing that you said about the way that if you want something, it's all depend on you. Because I didn't have that when I was like
Mm,
before the RSA. Like it's like the way in
mm,
which you make decisions, right? Because there's so many people that even my age or younger who are making more money than me, or making millions of dollars
mm-hmm.
online. And the reason they're there is because
Yep.
they took that uncomfortable decision that like only 1% of people are willing to make. That's why they get what everyone else will
Mm-hmm.
never get in life. And that really hit me after I joined. I'm like, I wish I started earlier,
Yeah.
right? Even though I'm only 18, man, I could have started earlier than that, right? That's what it comes down to. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel you on that one, man.
No, 100%. Dude. I think that was a huge shift. And for a lot of people, that's something that takes a long time to learn. And I think Alex and Mosey said it best. I can see you got the book, $100 million Leads behind you, is the graduation from, you know, I guess less of a scarcity mindset or becoming more wealthy is understanding that the two words, which is my fault, long story short. And if you're watching this, fully understand and take on board the responsibility that if you aren't where you want to be with sales, with success, with whatever it might be, with fitness even, it's all because of you, right? And when you take that control back and you stop blaming the government, your parents, your education, your teachers, that's when you kind of take the control back. So I think that's a really, really important point there. Um, I want to talk about your roles and how you've got them right now. More specifically, what's the method that you've used to find all of your roles that have netted all the income that you've had right now?
Good question. So when it came to like the initial roles that I had, I used, your network as well. But the main
Mm,
thing that kind of made me stand out from the rest of the people is really just interview skills, which is what a lot of people
mm,
don't cover in any of the other programs and stuff like that. So when I saw the interview program in the RSA specifically, I was like, okay, easy, let me follow this. And it's not like the typical, show up on time, wear like a tie and like a dress shirt and all that stuff. Is actually like interview skills and treating it like a sales call. That really changed my
mm,
whole mindset as well. But with the closing offer that I got now,
mm,
obviously, your network also really helped me, but ultimately it came down to me also following up, right, engaging, and then selling
100%.
myself on that interview. That's what it really came down to, because it's about
Absolutely.
who you know, but it's also about when you get that opportunity, converting that opportunity and learning how to
Yeah.
interview. That's what really kind of struck me because there's so many opportunities out there. It's just a matter of converting
Mhm.
it, right?
Absolutely. I think having that attitude, which, sometimes it can be taught, but, many years ago, I always, I talk about this quite frequently, but you kind of, I had the mindset and the philosophy. I was just a get shit done guy. Like if there was something I had to figure out, I would just make it work. That led from the whole story of to, when I pitched a multi seven figure entrepreneur at, I think I was 19 years old at the time for a sales management contract that was netting me $25,000 a month, right? All of that was just because I was just like, I will figure it out. It doesn't matter. I'll just make it work. And it all comes back to that self accountability mindset, which is really important. But the way that Kashi's got his roles is interviewing skills. Yes, absolutely. But because networking is so efficient, right? Kashi, keep in mind beforehand, maybe some door-to-door sales experience, just briefly, but no experience, complete beginner, no background in sales, right? The reason he was able to land his roles is because he uses network, aka myself, right? You know, inside the community, we have some referral placement opportunities for those that I think that deserve it. Referrals, I think, are earned, not guaranteed placement like a lot of these guys talk about. If I was going to guarantee you placement and I was going to make you 10K a month, I'd be charging 15,000 US for that, right? That's something that's very, very, that's a big service. It's a big claim to make. Hence why I don't do it. And it sounds like a logistical nightmare in my opinion. So much rather teach you guys the right skills so that you can self-source and not be reliant upon any one person, because you kind of put your clients, your customers in a bit of a trap there, which is important that I don't do as well. But what do you feel has been the biggest impact so far working with me together over the past couple of months? Like, what do you feel like has been the biggest shift or change for you? That's almost really changed your entire reality, going from uni dropout to almost on your way to a six-figure income.
Yeah, well, bro, it's pretty crazy. I can't lie. Like, I haven't really had time to kind of process the whole thing. I'm
To
like,
process it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh damn, okay. Like the excitement comes after. Like at the end of the day, when I've closed all the deals and you see the check come through, it processes after. You're like, I just made like what, like 2-3 grand in 1 week, just from taking a couple of calls on Zoom or having inbound leads for me and literally going anywhere I want. Like that was a pretty wild thought for me because at that time,
Mm,
like back then, like that's like an engineer's salary pretty much, right? 6 figures is
yeah.
like a really good engineer salary. So I was like,
Yeah.
man, this is crazy. Me from doing this at home. And then I thought back to what if I stayed at uni? I had that deep thought of, what if I literally just kept staying at uni and didn't cut off all the ropes? And I just don't regret a thing. Because if I stayed where I was, I would have always had a plan B at the end of the day. And that's really
Mm,
what kind of drove me to continue and have the results that I have today. Because if I was still in uni and still had, a plan B, if it all goes wrong, I'll still go to uni. Right? That's
mm,
really what it came down to. It made me realize the importance of going all in. Because if you're not all in and you're not someone who like you said, like grab it by the balls, right? Like
mm.
100%, like that's really what I feel like. It kind of like made me
You,
think back to why I had the success I had, not really the results itself.
yeah, because I would say you definitely did grab it by the balls, right? You really did. You went balls to the wall. And look, it works for some people and others it doesn't. But I really think that burning the boats and really going all in puts you in that environment, whereas you have to succeed, you have to win. And I've done that, I think, several occasions in my life. And every time it's worked out, sometimes by the skin of my teeth, especially with the agency. I spoke about that in the past, but yeah, with the agency back last year in October, I had less than 3 months left of savings before I was bust. And I was literally not homeless, but I'd have to move back in with my parents. But what I would have done is I would have just gone back to high ticket sales. I would have made 10K a month and then I would have graduated to 25, 30 relatively quickly. And that's why I think, again, it's just so important to talk about like the redundancy that you have with a sales skill, because you can do anything and you can always come back to this career and you have skills to make someone else money, and you're never going to have to worry about AI and all these other types of, really, really big things that are disrupting the entire industry and employment industry for degrees and everything like that. At the rate we're seeing AI moving, it's just insanity. And so it's like there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be replaced, a lot of university degrees that have become redundant, and a lot of people are going to be put in some really, really terrible spots. So having a skill like that to revert to is a pretty comfortable feeling. I mean, how does it make you feel, particularly being able to know that you have a skill that potentially this month you might even make 10K plus this month? You're probably on track for that. How does it feel that you have a skill that you can just basically spawn money out of just thin air?
Feels powerful, man. It feels like, damn, I'm like higher and like kind of getting to that top 1%, which is what I always wanted to be, think like top 1%. And it just allows me the
Mm,
freedom, to be honest, to just literally, I can just decide now that, I want to go to like another country, like Southeast Asia, or I want to go to Europe, and just go and not have to worry about anything. Just take my laptop, take my phone, just head off and take a couple of calls, travel the country, see the world. Because at the end of the day, man, I'm like super young, so I don't have any like
mhm,
responsibilities or things like that. I'm really just building a skill set. And that's what it came down to. Like when I hopped on the RSA, I think I might have asked you, like, is there any guaranteed placement? I was really on that guarantee, right? And thinking back to it, I realized why I had that mentality. I was just super scared that this isn't even going to work. And that's always what's kind of held me back. I feel like anyone out there watching as well, like you shouldn't have a
mm.
plan B. Like, why would you ask, is there a guarantee? Right. It's like automatically thinking that you're going to fail. That's really what kind of held me back. And then I realized like
That's
going
huge,
all in.
man.
Right?
Mm.
So it's more that freedom to really do whatever I want. Like the world's like your oyster. You would say.
Yeah, 100%. Because you can basically write your own check because with sales and particularly like in high ticket sales, the industry we're in, being remote, for example, obviously I'm technically doing sales for my own business at the moment, if you would call it that. But, like past couple of months, Vietnam, Dubai, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, go see my friend play Malaysia, like 4,000 people, Prague, um, and then now I'm in Bali for like the next month or something like that. And then I'm probably going to travel the world a bunch next year as well. It's a really cool thing. Upon reflection, I actually found a YouTube video today on this of what I have unlocked, and more importantly, what you have unlocked is the skill and the ability to have freedom in an essence. And that's why it's so powerful, like you mentioned, because like you mentioned, things happen so fast because your journeys happen so quickly within the space of 3 months. You've gone from here to here really quickly. Um, I think we'll talk about this moving forwards, but reflection is going to be really, really important because even just today, just like walking around the villa here, I'm just like, oh, holy shit. I've got like 50x what I thought I would have when I was like 20. I think yeah. So I'm 22 now. I'm turning 23 next week. I've got like 50x what I, wanted to have by this age, probably even more and then some. And that's from financial standpoint. That's from a freedom standpoint. That's from everything, really. Just you really, once you've been in the space for a while, you get detached of how a normal living really actually is, of like commuting to work, having a boss telling you that you can't take holidays. It's been so long for me now that I actually really have forgotten what that's like. And I only get to revisit that when I go hang out with friends who are still working like a normal job or are, studying at university and things like that.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's recently I just, went out with my friends or I go to like, shopping complexes and you see like old high school friends, people that are still in uni working like at Woolies or if any of you guys are Australian, like Woolies, Coles, working at all these
Yeah.
like fast food chains. And I'm like, man, I really forgot. Like I would have been there. Like I would have literally been there. And I just
Mm,
get extremely grateful that, I took that uncomfortable decision. That's what's more hitting me now. Just being grateful that I actually made that decision earlier on. And I didn't just hold it back for like months and months and months thinking about getting there. I kind of took that leap of faith, which is what I'm grateful for. Because I would have ended up in the same place that a lot of people kind of fall into the trap of getting that
mm.
9 to 5 role and like working these odd jobs here and there.
Yeah, and I think it's totally normal, right? For those of you watching now, like when I first worked with my first mentor again, he objection handled me for 30 minutes because I told him I wanted to think about it because I was extremely scared. It was stepping into the unknown. And even when I did the investment, I just put down a $500 deposit, measly $500. And I would just ran up and down my house going like, what the fuck have I just done? I think I've just ended my life, type thing. But, obviously it all worked out in the end, but from a lot of pain, a lot of sacrifice that was completely unnecessary, which is why I built the RSA to help a lot of you guys really shortcut that because I've gone through all that trial and error and I've spent the money in the training so you guys can really shortcut that. And I think for you personally, why do you think us? Like, why do you think me? Like, why do you think the RSA and not anyone else in the industry from your personal experience?
So, when I was looking to get into sales, because I saw Alex Mosey got the book here, But he was mentioning sales was the number one
Mm,
skill. So I was like, okay, let me learn a skill set first, sales. And I looked at all these mentors. I won't name them, but there's a lot of them out there that have like thousands of people in their course, or tens of
mm,
thousands of people, and no one really gets that one-on-one support at the end of the day. And when I book in
no,
a call with the RSA, I'm expecting to talk to some random guy because that's what's happened before. But I talked to you, right, face to face, and I was like, okay, this guy actually means business. He cares about me, right? He cares about the RSA. At the end
mm,
of the day, the results speak for themselves. When I was going through your YouTube, watching these interviews, right? Like it's crazy to be on this interview because I was watching your interviews with other people before I joined the RSA. And it really
mm,
came down to that one-on-one support and having a proven system and being genuine. Because when you go through your YouTube channel, it's not edited videos that are there for the algorithm or anything like that. Right. It's actually like
mm.
genuine videos of your experience. And you're just speaking the truth, not holding any value back. It's just you're putting your true thoughts out there, which really is read to me, to be honest.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I'm glad because I think the biggest thing in personal experience, there's two things I want to talk about here. The first thing is in personal experience, what I found is spending collectively probably about $140,000 on different trainings and mentors in the past 4 or 5 plus years. What I've noticed, and the reason why I've structured the RSA, I've structured it is because of I saw that it was lacking one-on-one support, right? The course or the training program I originally bought it for, I was never talking to the person that was the guy behind the camera, the person that actually knew the stuff, right? Which really pissed me off, to be honest. Um, the training was usually quite outdated. A lot of the training was bloated and really long, so like hour-long trainings, really hard for people to pay attention to. And really, you had to just focus and sit down for an hour, and sometimes you'd miss so much. And hence why you've probably seen in the training, it's just like, here's what you need to know. That's it. If you're unsure about something, I'll direct you to a video that just is 3 to 5 minutes, and it'll just help you just sort that issue pretty much straight away. Because I remember when I first initially built the first initial version of the training, I just sat down for like a week, and I just wrote down like, what would, if I was speaking to Connor at 18 years old, like what would I want him to know? Like what's the every single crook and cranny, every little crevice here and there, every little corner that I wish that I knew years ago. And that's why I think a lot of the guys are getting some insane results in the RSA from what I've seen so far. Been running since, back end of April. We're approaching close towards like 200 testimonials on the Instagram story highlights. We're probably almost maxed out the second highlight. So we're on to number 3. That's been the goal before the end of the year. The other thing I wanted to talk about as well is a big thing to do with ego. I talked about this in a recent YouTube video as well, is that it's very easy when you are young to feel like you know everything. All right. You're 18, I'm 22. I sometimes get in my own way as far as like ego. I think I know everything. In fact, in my personal experience, like literally the past couple of months, saw this guy who could help me with an element of the business, and I watched his content for months. I delayed putting off a decision. I said, it's too easy. It's too simple. Like I just can't justify paying him this amount of money, which was, I think it was 16 or 17 grand altogether. But eventually I just I bought the bullet. I bit the bullet. Right? And I just kind of actually just made that investment. And I was like, dude, I've been watching you for months and I feel like I just need to make that commitment now and change, because the way things are going, I feel like I'm lacking this skill in an area. And for a very long time, my ego got in the way of telling me, I can figure it out on my own. I can make it work. But the one thing that I lost in that time was time. So I'll never get those 3 or 4 months back. I'll never have that level of inside the business that I'd actually want. And there's so much opportunity cost that I've had and impact that I've lost by not actually making that investment in the first place. And I think for anyone watching, Cash has gone through this. I've gone through this even more recently. If you're battling with your ego, if you think that you know everything, you probably don't, right? I can tell you that right now. It feels simple, but it's not, right? It is simple, but it's not easy. But if you are trying to figure out everything on your own with all the information you have available on, YouTube or internet or what have you, you will struggle. Believe me. I'm going to ask Kashi here in a second, but believe me, I did that for 2 years and I got fucking nowhere. And I just bought little kind of little courses here and there and tried to run an agency, try to do this, try to do that. And it never worked. And I think the reason why we have to charge a significant amount for the RSA is because if you don't pay that money, you will not commit. You just won't. The reason why you don't have the results you want to have, or where you want to be, is because you don't implement the information you have access to in the first place. Now, trust me, you don't have access to all the information that you need, right? But more oftentimes than not, a lot of you have all the results you need. Same thing with fitness. Like everybody knows that you need to eat less food, train more. That's it. Do cardio and you'll get jacked. Pretty simple explanation. But people still pay fitness coaches $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to keep them accountable to that standard. And I think that's the real difference, because when you pay money, you pay attention. And I'm curious to hear your experience through that, on whether or not you've gone through any of those problems with battling with your ego or anything of that nature.
Yeah, it's pretty damn spot on. I went through the exact same thing. So I literally thought I knew everything. I don't need any mentor. Like I can figure this out all myself. It's all a scam, the online space, just trying to take my money and run away. And
Mm-hmm.
I tried to start my own agency, try to start this. And ultimately I thought I was doing something. I'm like, oh, I'm on my path of self-improvement. That was the danger. I thought I was actually doing something. But if you actually look at my results, I was making $0, even though I thought I was doing something. That's really what it comes down to. I feel like a lot of young people, especially if they're like 18, like me, fresh out of high school, and you just have that ego in you, like use
Yeah.
it, use it to your advantage, right? And be like,
Mm.
okay, clearly I have a huge ego, right? You got to admit it
Mm.
first. Because I admitted, I was like, okay, maybe I don't know everything in the world about sales and how to make money online. Otherwise, I would have been there. As simple as that. I don't have the results
Mm.
to speak. And then when I saw something like a proven system where you can see that it works, like what's really stopping me from getting started? And it was literally just my mindset in the way I make decisions. Like now that I think back on, I'm like, oh, it's completely normal. Find a mentor. But 3 months
Mm.
from now, find a mentor. That was like alarm bells in my
Yeah.
mind. I'm like, oh, scam, guru. Like, there's so much bad images out there about it. Like literally, I'm about to get a chess mentor to learn chess.
Mm.
Very random, right? Or even like trading,
Yeah.
get into trading. The first
Mm.
thing that came into my mind is let me find a mentor that's already walked the path that I want to walk, and not go on YouTube and search up how to play chess or how to make money with trading or whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Investing. It comes down to finding a mentor. That's what I feel. It's a mindset shift for real.
It's huge, man. I think
Yeah.
there's a quote I always like to come back to, that my first proper mentor, Ben, who I definitely owe a lot of my success to, he told me this quote where it basically was, I think it's something along the lines of, um, I stand on the shoulders of giants. And it's so true, because I don't think that anybody's self-made. I think you always get a lending hand from somebody else. You've always had a mentor. You've had someone in your life that's helped you get to where you want to go. Most people have not achieved what they've achieved alone, right? Maybe some have, but most definitely haven't. So I think if you're watching this, get the idea out of your mind that you have to be self-made, that you do it on your own, because quite literally, I'm sure Kashi would tell you, but if I had someone like myself 4 years ago, I would fight tooth and nail. I'd sell fucking anything I could. I'd sell my car. I would work as many hours at shitty restaurants as I needed to get the funding for the RSA. And that sounds biased coming from me. I'm going to hear it from your perspective in a second. But generally, if I had someone like myself 4 or 5 years ago and I knew the value of it, I would do anything to get access to the RSA training, because the results that I've seen from it is just, I've not seen anything like it anywhere else, especially through personal experience. Usually takes people a long, long, long time, a lot longer than it took you, a lot longer than it's taken a lot of the other guys inside the training program to get the results they're getting. Getting roles, and actually good roles, by the way. So there's a big difference there. Like actual good roles with great companies. Like Cash is working with a multi-seven-figure entrepreneur in Australia, very successful guy. I think the previous account, was working on was great too. But yeah, I'm keen to hear your experience on that. Like, what would you say to someone who's like, oh, I'm not sure if I should invest the money, or I'm not sure if it's worth getting the funding together to invest in something like the RSA?
Yeah. No, good question. So when I was there, I always thought like putting money down was, I'm never going to put money down on anything. But it's like you
Mm,
said, putting money down literally makes you accountable, whether you believe it or not. Once
Mm,
you do it, then you only see. You don't know what you don't know, right, at the
yeah.
end of the day. But when you see a proven system where you get one-on-one support, it's a step-by-step process. You've seen other people do it, literally your age or younger, do it. Then what's really holding you back? It's clearly not the money, right? If you can't afford the RSA and you have the capital up front, then it's clearly not the money. It's literally just your mindset and the way in which you make decisions. Because you're 100% gonna do this at some point. Whether you're, 23, whether you're 24, whether you're 30, you're gonna have to invest in a mentor. It just comes down to when you're gonna do it. Because if you start
Mm,
off like 5 years down the line when you're in a more secure position financially, you're just 5 years late, right, at the end of the day. Because that's
mm,
what I realized. I would have still invested in a mentor. If I didn't get going with the RSA, I would have done it 2, 3 years down the line when I got out of my mindset. It just comes down to when you want to do it, right? If I did it 2, 3 years down the line, I would have been 2, 3 years late. As simple as
mm-hmm.
that. It's literally
Yeah,
just a mindset because most people can afford it or can get the funding for that. If you really want something, right? Like if I
absolutely.
told you that you were going to get a mansion and that mansion's on sale for like $1,000, you're going to do everything you need or like $5,000. You're going to
Mm,
do everything in your caliber to get $5,000 to get that mansion. That's worth like a
yeah,
million dollars, right? So you
so
can do it. It just comes down to when do you want to do it and how badly do you want it. Simple as that.
no, absolutely true. And I think the only time that, or the only thing that you lose by delaying that decision is time, and it's the one unit of resource that you cannot get back. And as I've spent more time with, multi seven-figure entrepreneurs, eight-figure entrepreneurs, even nine-figure entrepreneurs, it's always the resounding same answer is I would much rather waste my money than my time every single time. And I think this is something that you get to see as you become older. You think that you're invincible when you're younger. I still do. You probably still do. Everybody does when they're younger. But time moves very quickly once you finish university and once you finish your pre-tertiary your studies. It it moves fast and it doesn't wait around for you. And so it's like the only thing that you're losing is time by delaying a decision, like investing in RSA, like investing in someone, a mentor to help you to get you to where you want to go much faster. I think it's super, super important to highlight because not many people think in the long term. They think in the short term. They think,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to lose this. I'm losing the money. Whereas I think what you said before there was really, really good of you have that when you've put that money down, you've invested in yourself, you've really committed to something different, but you've also you've backed yourself, you've kept yourself accountable, and you will show up. But I think there's a big common concern that a lot of guys have of, where are we going to go and how are we going to do things and how does it all work? And I like to talk about the common analogy of in Australia, two places, Melbourne, Sydney, right? Most people across the world should be familiar with those. If you're walking on a flight and you're going to Melbourne and Sydney, you don't just jump into the cockpit and just walk in and just start twisting all the knobs and going like, hey, brother, like, do you know where you're going? Rah, 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 rah. You obviously don't because you trust the pilot to take you to your destination. The same thing with making money online. It's such a foreign concept to so many people, like yourself 3 months ago, like it was to me 4 or 5 years ago. Um, you need to find somebody that you trust, a mentor that you really truly believe can help you get to where you want to go. Because if you have a proven variable, you have the pilot, aka me, that knows where you're going to go. All you have to do is come on the plane, strap on your seatbelt, buy a ticket, and we'll take you there. Right. But the sitting down and buying the ticket is the hardest part. And I think stepping into the unknown is by far one of the most difficult things that you can do, is because as humans, we don't like uncertainty. We like things to be certain. We like to have things be known because that's just an unconscious bias, right? You want to survive. You don't want to step into things that are scary or unknown or could be a threat to you. So I think it's very important to understand that there is a mountain out there with someone standing on it that has achieved what you want to achieve. That person is me, right? I'm standing up there with a flag. I will show you where to go. But if you keep walking on this desert island, right, surrounded by water with all your friends doing the same shit over and over and over again, the same people that tell me making money isn't online isn't real, everything's a scam, nothing works, right? You will continuously walk on that same island the rest of your life and nothing will ever change. You need to, at one point, pick a direction, put the boots on, and just start fucking walking, man. Because sometimes people will drown. I'm not going to lie to you. And we know this, right? People do training programs. They'll come to the training program. They'll do nothing with it. Not much I can really do there. I can't help you, right? But if you make that decision to pick a direction and trust me to take you to the top of the mountain, I will take you there. But you have to put that faith in me first. That's really, really important for everybody that's watching this. Maybe you've been watching the YouTube channel for a while. Maybe you've been watching my content. You've been sitting on the sidelines, been watching the content for a while. Really, really consider what I just mentioned, because Cash has gone through the same thing. I've gone through the same thing. And these are the exact same things I wish that I heard 4 or 5 years ago. Hopefully, maybe you have a bit of a mindset shift there for you as well, watching this as well. So last question I want to ask you, Kashi. Of course, being through the training program, you've had great experience working with me. You know me quite well. And you've got some experience to really reference, I'd say. Bottom line, how likely would you say that you are to recommend RSA working with me to anybody else? And what would you probably say to someone who's maybe sitting on the fence right now?
Question. So I don't on like a scale of 1 to 10, probably like a 10 out of 10, man. Right? When it comes to recommending this to someone else. Because when I think back to 3 months ago on to find a right mentor, it was very hard to see who was really speaking the truth and who's being authentic. And because I've already experienced it, the one-on-one support. If you show up and do the hard work, you'll get results. And I've personally gone through it, then there's no better recommendation for me because I've literally done it myself from you. So I would recommend this to anyone of my friends who actually want to do the hard work, who want to show up and do it. If they do the hard work, then they'll get it. And I'll recommend you as a mentor for sure when it comes to that. And for anyone that's kind of on the fence about joining the RSA or making that leap of faith, I've been there like 3 months ago. And when I was on that call, and I wasn't even going to hop on the call in the first place, I was like the guy that was most on the fence, right? But it just comes down to just booking that call with Connor, having a talk about the RSA, and ultimately there to make a decision. All right, because do you want to be the person where you're staying exactly where you are, and look where you're going to be if you stay exactly where you are, like a couple years down the line? Really think about it. Compared to taking that risk of investing in yourself, keeping yourself accountable to make some more money online and potentially change the rest of your life. Like literally, my life has changed, right? What's more risky at the end of the day? To stay where you are? I think you asked me that, Connor, right? To stay where you are or to invest in yourself? Like really think about it. And I thought about it at that point. And I was like, I don't want to be in that 9 to 5 role. I don't want to be capped with an income. I don't want to be stuck in Australia for the rest of my life. I don't want to be stuck in one place. And that's really what made me take that leap of faith.
Yeah, that's huge, man. I think that's some very good takeaways for the guys that are listening. And I think to finish off, any final notes, anything that you'd like to say about your journey, your experience, just anything in general that you would like anything that's watching this video on the YouTube channel, like anything that you'd like to share with them?
Yeah, just seeing the money come through from just taking a couple of Zoom calls or even just working online, it's mind-boggling to me that I can still make money from anywhere in the world. That's really the mind-boggling part. And I'm still processing the whole thing. So if you ask this like a couple months down the line, I'll have like a better idea. But like it's all just hit me as a wave like right now. Like 2 months ago when I was actually working on my offers, and even last month when I was working and getting to that 7K in commissions, I wasn't really thinking about the results too much. And then when all the commissions came through and I saw my bank account, I have some savings. I actually am building myself up for the future, and I'm well on track to make 10K and even more than that in the future. It shows that my salary is not capped at like 20 grand or even 30 grand per month. Like you have the potential to make so much money. It's just a matter of putting the time in and actually making that uncomfortable decision. Right. It's just changed my life, to be honest. Right. It's just put a whole new perspective on the world, especially like hanging around, 7-figure entrepreneurs or all these people that are successful. I see it's just a mindset shift, and you see the world as like a completely different place.
Yeah, no, that's huge, man. Great takeaways. And I think a big commitment that I've made to the guys in the community is really developing my skills and my conscious understanding of mindset. Because I think it's such a fundamental foundational base of like to whether or not you're successful or not. I know a lot of people talk about, oh, mindset, it's fucking rah. It's like, no, like it actually is really, really important. And for me personally, before I knew what some of you guys have access to inside the RSA, you just kind of end up plodding along, right? You think nothing's your fault, right? It's everyone else's responsibility. It's this and that. And then when you realize there are certain rules to the game that when you understand them, you can completely take control of your life and really do anything that you want in this world. That's when things start to truly change. And it's cool to see that it's definitely happened for you within the last 3 months.
100%, man.
Sweet. All right. Well, I think we'll tie it off there, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this interview with Kashi. I think he's going to do very, very, very well in the next months to come. We might do another interview when he's doing even more income and more commissions. But, I think he's at a very good level in such a short time frame for now. But yeah, guys, if you're sitting on the sidelines, hopefully this is going to be a test to you to really consider thinking about what you want to do in life. Do you want to change? Do you want to stay the same? Do you want to stay where you're at? Do you want to book on a call? Do you have a conversation? Don't worry. I will not bite. I won't force you to do anything that you don't want to. I'll just challenge your limiting beliefs potentially, just a little bit, right? But with that said, guys, I hope you're all having an amazing day, an amazing week. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks, guys.